Iowa, unbelievably, has a chance to win the Big Ten Western Division after all of its offensive struggles again this year, and actually may have the best path. But of course, they've got to win this one at Minnesota. Interesting low-scoring matchup here. We got Steve Merrill on the line from Wager Talk. Get on over to all the channels here at the Voice of College Football for Steve's Thursday breakdown with us. But more importantly, wagertalk.com with Steve. Iowa, Minnesota defensive battle expected here as usual. And the Gophers are a slight favorite at home.
It's interesting. We've had a lot of fun talking about Iowa this season here on the channel. It really has been one of the most extreme dichotomies I've ever seen. I've been doing this for 26 years, since 1996, full-time professional college football handicapper. Their defense is really good, obviously. 14 points a game, 3.8 yards per play, but their offense has been almost equally as bad this year. 2.9 yards per rush, 5.9 yards per pass. But that 98 rushing yards per game, 2.9 yards per rush is a little misleading right now because, don't look now, Iowa has somewhat found their running game. Struggled a little bit last week against Wisconsin, obviously. They only had 52 rushing yards. That's why it is surprising that they won that game 24-10. And a lot of it had to do with the 3-1 turnover edge. But the 2 weeks before that against Northwestern and Purdue, sure, they were an 11-point favorite against a bad Northwestern team, but they were a dog at Purdue, a 3.5-point dog, and won that game 24-3. They combined for over 350 rushing yards in those 2 games. So if they can somewhat run the ball here, and I think they can against Minnesota, they obviously have a chance to pull the upset here as a 2.5-point underdog. Minnesota on the season gives up 3.8 yards per rush against teams that average 3.9, so an average rush defense. Where Minnesota's been pretty strong this year is their pass defense, 5.8 against teams that average 6.6. So I do think Iowa's going to struggle to throw the ball. So Iowa cannot get behind in this game. But with that defense, I don't think they necessarily do. They're going to look to establish the run. Obviously, that would get you looking at the under normally. But, I think the odds makers market probably done a good job finally pricing this low enough where we can't play it anymore. We joked about that total a few games ago. What was it? The Rutgers game. Was it the Rutgers game that was 35? It was 27-10. Yeah. It went over by 2 points. And I think a third of all the points for Iowa in that game were defensive scores, non-offensive scores. Only went over by 2, but Iowa has started to play better offensively. 24 points or more now in 3 straight games, so 32.5 might be a little low, although this should be a defensive battle.
It's just an aberration what Iowa was able to do on defense and special teams. Yeah, the Rutgers game, they scored 3 touchdowns, 2 on defense. In this Wisconsin win, Steve, hidden yardage by the Hawkeyes, blocked punt that set up the offense in the red zone, punt return that set them up deep in the red zone, and a pick 6. That was setting up all their offensive points right there. Iowa, Minnesota. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by as always, but want to remind everyone, get on over to patreon.com. You get Steve's under the radar selection. You don't get that anywhere but on Patreon. Search Mark Rogers TV exclusively for us right there. 10-1 against the spread, but join Steve on wagertalk.com for the complete look at the NFL, college football, and the NBA. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Mark.